My most memorable Christmas day happened when I was about 11. During a big family game of backyard cricket at my grandparents' house in Newcastle, after presents and lunch and crackers, all very wholesome, my teenage cousin copped a not-so-wholesome errant cricket ball directly to his balls, with the extra indignity of the batter responsible being his younger brother. It's my most memorable, not least because it was the only year one of the uncles brought a video camera to capture family Christmas. So we all saw the farcical incident moment over and over throughout the years on film and later transposed to DVD and then to digital. Until recently, I thought my only example of a slapstick injury of this kind happened to me just before Christmas 2013, when I was working in a superannuation call centre job in Sydney. It was my first 9-to-5 office job, and I had what I think is a common feeling, where it was kind of like I was cosplaying as person with office job. An old friend of mine, Caroline, worked there as well, referred me there actually, and we had a cluster of other colleagues who we'd message with all day on the internet and drink with on Friday nights. Caroline and I generally kept it fairly buttoned up, which I just realised ties in with that thing I said before, that was unintentional, at post-work drinks. We acted as mutual voices of reason for each other, a bit of a duet of reason. But there was a particular Friday evening when we had the intense-eyed energy of children when you hand them lit sparklers. No real reason why. We just let the devil take the wheel after the first sip of barely drinkable house white, which I think is probably what Eve actually ingested in the Garden of Eden. Crammed into an inner city bar a couple of blocks away from our work building, we got drunk to the point of it becoming a two-syllable word like that. At about 8 or 9 p.m, a group of us left the bar and decided to get taxis to a club in the northern suburbs. So that's 2013, it was still taxis, not Ubers. We stopped by our building first, so one guy could grab something he forgot in the office. We waited in the deserted lobby, putting on a performance of being sober for an audience of no one. But then, in an act of drunken, irrational bravado that I truly cannot explain, I, a then 31-year-old woman, wearing sensible office attire, suddenly cried, "Watch this," with the, with the intonation of a little kid who's about to do just the worst handstand you've ever seen in your whole life. I jogged over to the concierge desk, climbed on it, and jumped off. And the seconds after you've done something just irretrievably bad, but before the consequences hit, they exist somewhere out of linear time. It's like when Wile E. Coyote runs off the end of a cliff and is suspended in midair until he notices he's about to fall, and in that very noticing, makes gravity start working again. So I was suspended there for a second. And then I landed in ballet flats with no cushioning on the marble floor, miraculously upright, and felt an excruciating jarring pain in my left foot. And then, much like Wile E. Coyote, when he gets right back to the important business of painting tunnel entrances onto big rocks or whatever, I pretended I was unscathed, even while limping and wincing, and proceeded to stay out drinking until the early hours. 31 years old. I woke up the next day, forcefully hungover, with agonising pain, particularly in the heel area of my left foot, that's Chekhov's heel pain, and burgeoning swelling and bruising on both feet. But this desperate bluster that I was fine persisted. I limped my way around while trying not to look like I was limping. I optimistically bought like 8 gel inserts for my shoes. And every night I was convinced I'd wake up and it would magically feel better. I observe certain social fictions. So like with my mum, who's here tonight, when I go to see her, within like 90 seconds max, I've rummaged in her fridge and cupboards and eaten little bits of all her food, like a medieval poison taster or like a dwarf visiting a hobbit or whatever. But later on during my visit, she'll say something like, "Oh, Emma, there's some mixed nuts in the kitchen if you'd like some." And even though I already found the mixed nuts hours ago and picked out all the macadamias, I can almost make myself believe it when I pretend to her that it's the first time I'm hearing about these nuts. Apart from that kind of thing, I always thought I was generally quite honest with myself and others. But it was a full 11 days of deceiving myself about this heel situation before I went to a doctor. The doctor was a mix of exasperated, stern, and thankfully kind when I explained how I'd hurt myself and referred me to get an x-ray, which you may be unsurprised to learn if my extremely subtle foreshadowing has worked, that there was a truly comical crack in my left heel bone. Luckily, a cracked heel bone is one of those injuries, like broken ribs or broken tailbone or broken heart, where there's not a lot you can do to set it or cast it. So walking on it for almost a fortnight hadn't done any particular additional harm, and wearing a moon boot for 6 weeks sorted me out. Wile E. Coyote never learns. Despite relentless failures, he maintains unhinged brand loyalty to Acme products and keeps chasing the Roadrunner. I, at least, did learn from walking around with a broken heel from doing Aldi brand parkour, a little less prone to self-delusion, a little more firm in suggesting someone who's hurt themselves get it checked out, a little more able to extend empathy to people who've done silly things. Now, I said at the outset that until recently, I thought this was the only kind of slapstick injury I'd have ever sustained. I've told a shorter version of this heel story once before that ended with this little sort of lessons learned section. But while pulling this longer story together, I was like suddenly remembering where you've seen that actor playing the dead body in Law & Order before. I realised I've definitely had a far worse and more slapstick injury before. This happened when I was 4, going to preschool in Bathurst. I loved preschool, and I remember the physical space of it to the point where if you ever have the undignified misfortune of me describing a dream to you at length, it will likely involve me saying something like, yeah, it was like my preschool from Bathurst and the pizza restaurant I worked in when I was 18, but like somehow both of them, but neither of them. In this preschool yard, frequent star of my dreams, there was a tall tree near the sandpit with branches sticking out all the way down to small child height, perfect for climbing. And in my memory, it's basically the shape of a big Christmas tree. And one day, I climbed up much higher than was wise, a little buck-toothed, cowlick-fringed, freckle-faced Icarusette, and I fell, and I hit a bunch of branches on the way down, including a branch between the legs. This resulted in an ambulance trip to the hospital, a rather delicate surgery, a good decade being removed off my mother's lifespan, and the branches of that tree being shorn off to the trunk well above human height. It did not result in a lawsuit because this was the fucking 80s. So it was just like, everyone was just like, oops, lol, hee hee. I'll not go into further detail about the injury because I feel like I've already had enough goes at getting people to like reflexively cross their legs tonight. But I was completely fine. And my cousin was fine too. I feel like maybe I should have said that a bit earlier. But just think about how full on Wile E. Coyote, Elmer Fudd, Daffy Duck, Homer Simpson, Roger Rabbit et al. It is to fall out of a tree hitting every branch on the way down, including between the legs. It's just like you can almost hear the sound effects. And to top the whole thing off, the doctor who performed the surgery was named Dr. Fingers. So, I learned some lessons from the heel incident, but the only thing I've learned from now remembering this tree incident is that when I die, the cause of death is probably going to be crushed by falling piano. Thank you.
Emma Wortley!